Doctor Who, the Zygon Invasion. This episode is in many ways a direct follow-up to Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special episode. And love that episode or hate that episode, you have to admit it was a really ambitious idea to bring the Doctors together, reveal a whole new aspect of the Doctor's history, and tell a contained story about the Zygons all at the same time. And for the most part, I feel like that episode really worked. This episode, not quite as much. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't bad or anything, it just wasn't knock your socks off impressive. I am going to avoid as many spoilers as possible as I do this review, saving all the spoilery stuff for the second half, because again, it is a two-part episode. What you absolutely need to know is that part of the treaty that was made between the humans and the Zygons in Day of the Doctor was to allow, I think it was like 20 million Zygons, don't quote me on that, to relocate to Earth, take on human form, and live here as kind of refugees, and that the Zygon Osgood remained Osgood, that somehow they decided that they wanted to be neither human or Zygon, and both effectively be the same person, treating each other as sisters, so that they could act as the personification of the peace. And now that one of the Osgoods is dead, the other one is the only Osgood left. And at the same time, the treaty has started to break down, and it's up to the Doctor and Unit to figure out why the Zygons are acting out now, what their goals are, and how they can either stop them straight up or restore the peace. And I really hope this episode is going the latter direction, because the Zygons make great villains, but I think they make cool allies too. Maybe that's just me. And I think the reason this episode didn't impress me all that much is because, one, you're undoing something that 10 did, and that always bothers me. And two, there were some shocking reveals in this episode. I saw both of them coming from miles away. We get two Zygon reveals. We get the reveal that two very prominent characters in the show, one much more prominent than the other, but both are prominent in this specific episode, are actually Zygons in disguise, and I guessed both of them way ahead of time, and so neither one of them shocked me. And then the episode ended on another Doctor Death fake-out. Which, I mean, yeah, we're not supposed to know it's a fake-out because we don't actually see him alive at the end of the episode, but he's in the rest of the season! We know he's not gonna die! I just don't even know why they bother with it. It's so cheap. It really bugs me. But the Zygons here look better than ever, and they are definitely a threatening enemy, one which has developed its powers beyond its original limitations, so now we don't even understand fully how they work anymore. And if this episode had been, I don't know, maybe a single episode and the pace had been increased, it would have been better, because they try to give it this slow build so that it has this kind of horror feeling going on in the back of your brain, but it never really gets as tense as I feel like they wanted it to. I just feel like if they had picked up the pace of this episode a little bit, packed it full of a little bit more stuff, and made it more of a mad dash towards the end, it would have been more exciting. And maybe part 2 will fix that. Maybe part 2 will just elevate this episode. But as it stands, I feel like it's just an entirely average episode of the show, and while I wouldn't be opposed to watching it again, it's never going to be like in my top 10 episodes. Does this make any sense? Do you guys get what I'm saying here? I didn't hate the episode at all. I just wasn't particularly impressed by it, more so than I have been impressed by other Doctor Who episodes in the past. That makes sense, right? Anyway, guys, if you have seen this episode, what did you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, but let's actually try to keep it relatively spoiler-free this time, since I tried to keep the review relatively spoiler-free. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.